quickly add, if you're going to get to Senator Cassidy this information about not recreating the whole ball of wax on software programs and updates on computers, I'd like to see it as well. I 100% agree with Bill. It just seems we always have to customize on everything in government and usually end up with products that are frankly not as good as off the shelf. And I would also add, while there are enormous challenges around AI, in this area, there's a great deal of upside. So I hope whatever information you get to Senator Cassidy, you get to me as well. I'm a little surprised, and Commissioner, it's great to see you, and thank you for, I remember when you first got nominated for this, and, was this really the way you wanted to spend this part of your life? I'm glad you are. I'm glad you're doing it. I think you're getting results. I'm a little surprised that we've gone through a number of questions, and you haven't been asked what I'd have thought would have been one of the first questions, and because even some of my Republican colleagues who don't like all the money going, I think most of them would agree that better enforcement will help grapple with the tax gap. And it's been most recent estimate on the tax gap for 2021, I think, put it at about $688 billion. So wouldn't have to raise taxes if we could have that full payment. There have been some estimates that we could actually get a savings with the investments you'll be making of $800 billion over a 10-year span by 2034. There has been some testimony that, well, you and the Treasury Secretary indicated you are looking at high net worth individuals in terms of enforcement. I think there was some reference said that there's upwards of $500,000 in additional revenue for each investigation you garner. Can you give us some sense, for those of us who push this kind of record investment in the IRA in your organization, what do we look like in terms of how we're making progress on closing this tax gap, and what kind of metrics on a regular basis could we see?
Yeah, thank you for the question. First, I would start by saying, the first gap that we've been able to close is the services gap. And we put the Inflation Reduction Act money to use to make sure we had the right number of people on the phone. In
Virginia, we've gone from 30-minute waits to 3-minute waits.
Yeah, exactly. So that's first. Second, we've made a commitment to use Inflation Reduction Act funds in enforcement exclusively on large, complex, high-wealth filers. And we are just getting started. We've announced initiatives for wealthy individuals who haven't filed, about 125,000 of them. We've announced initiatives to collect delinquencies from millionaires and billionaires that owe back taxes. We've announced efforts to crack down on something called transfer pricing, where multinational corporations shield profit and income in the U.S. and move it to a different tax jurisdiction. We've announced efforts on cracking down on the largest and most complex partnerships who are particularly sophisticated at times in shielding their income and using AI to spot that complexity. We believe that the efforts that we're undertaking under the Inflation Reduction Act, when it all total, and we issued a report on this a few months ago, could result in nearly $700 billion in return. We were debating—
And that $700 billion is over 10?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We were debating earlier the president's 25 budget, and concerns were raised about the $104 billion that we've asked for in the out years, starting in 2026 and beyond. And I described needing that money to make sure that we're sustaining what we're able to achieve this year and beyond as the tax system and the economy continue to grow in its complexity. That $104 billion that we're asking for would also return about $341 billion over 10 years in additional revenue. So,
beyond the 700 that you've already baked in.
No, it's included.
That would be another.
So that's why it's so important. That's why it's such an interesting debate on IRS funding, because there's two things at play. One, it's making sure that we can help taxpayers who need it. Taxpayers have questions. Filing your taxes can be stressful. The tax system is complicated. And it's heartbreaking to us as IRS employees if we can't answer the call. So having enough funding to be able to have the right staff size and the right customer service. But also, it's absolutely essential to the government's bottom line that the IRS is closing that tax gap and collecting those balance dues.
I agree. Let me just quickly, because I know that my time's running out. One area where I still get a lot of concerns with this improved customer service, families who've got a loved one that's died, how you deal with the deceased processing quickly. Is there some plans on how we can improve that part of the service?
Yeah, there are a couple of different areas when you look at topics where we hear from taxpayers that it's complicated and they're not getting, as direct and clear service. Identity theft victims, we've done a fairly good job preventing identity theft, working with partners. But on the back end, once you've unfortunately been victimized, we're too slow and we need to get quicker. And you raise another question in terms of families that are dealing with deceased relatives and resolving. It gets confusing.
I hope you could come back. Our time's up, but I hope you would come back with a plan on how you can improve that service.
We will.
That's one of the areas we still hear a lot of concern.